Hello YouTube, it is I, Vincent, back again with yet another video. I apologize for not sticking to my normal weekly upload schedule. This past weekend I was actually in Oklahoma visiting some family for the Easter weekend, so unfortunately I was preoccupied and unable to make a video last week. But no worries, I am back and hopefully I can stick with this weekly upload schedule. Fingers crossed. But enough of that, on to the topic of today's video. Today we'll be revisiting the topic of Gibson's lawsuits. This is actually going to be a continuation of the last video that I made, so if you haven't watched that, please feel free to watch that after you've watched this. But in any case, let's move on to the first lawsuit of the day. The first lawsuit of the day sounds a lot more depressing now that I'm verbalizing that out loud and not just reading it on a script. But this lawsuit is going to be Gibson versus Heritage. This one's a little bit different than the other ones that we've talked about because in this one, Gibson is actually the defendant instead of the aggressor in this circumstance. Now, to fully understand this whole situation, we got to talk about the history between Gibson and Heritage because these two brands are very, very intertwined. Heritage was actually founded by former Gibson employees, and back in the 90s, there actually was another lawsuit where Gibson actually filed against Heritage. However, they settled this entire thing out of court, and since the 90s, Heritage has been able to make their guitars entirely worry-free. However, as we all know, Gibson went bankrupt in 2018, and as a result, they got acquired by the Kohlberg Kravis Roberts hedge fund. It's a lot of words. But under this new hedge fund, they got new leadership, and this new leadership did not want to play nice with Heritage at all. Because of this, Heritage actually tried to take Gibson to court for trying to undo the resolution that they came to 3 decades ago, which allowed them to make their guitars in the first place. Just like with the first case between them, this one also settled out of court, with both parties dropping both of their claims and only having to pay their own respective legal fees, and then going back to the original status quo. So in the end, nobody really won or lost, but Heritage did get what they want, and the status quo is maintained, and then keep making their guitars. So I guess in the end, Gibson lost? Anywho, moving on to the second brand of the day, we will be talking about Warwick. Now, in 2014, Gibson took Warwick to court over the use of the V-shape on their bass under their Framus line. Gibson claimed that the use of the V-shape was violating their Flying V trademark, obviously, and that he claimed that Framus was misleading customers and confusing them because apparently you are unable to read the words on the headstock, but I digress. This case went to court in Germany, with the Hamburg Regional Court actually filing in favor of Gibson. However, in 2020, the higher regional courts filed in favor of Framus. They claimed that despite the two guitars having similar shapes, consumers would be able to distinguish very easily between the two brands because, again, people can read. I mean, Gibson might not think that you can read, but you can read. Gibson tried to take this to the German Supreme Court. However, this case got dismissed, and because it got dismissed at the Supreme Court level, Gibson can no longer challenge this case. Now to talk about a case that's a little bit crazy. I'm honestly not even sure if I fully believe this one, but this is the case with Jericho Guitars. Now, in 2023, the CEO of Jericho Guitars, Dan Musselman, went on Facebook to talk about how Gibson fully shut down his entire website. Fully shut down his website, fully shut down his other domains, shut down his business email, shut down his personal email. Gibson allegedly took all of that down before even sending him a cease and desist. This is supposedly in response to Jericho releasing their Vagabond shaped, which is very obviously Explorer inspired. It's an Explorer. So as a result of this, Jericho has taken the Vagabond off market, changed the shape, and then re-released it, and now it's slightly different, so it's not exactly the same thing as a Gibson Explorer. The finer details of this case are honestly kind of murky. I honestly could not find much about it when I was researching it. Gibson never made an official comment regarding this entire situation, so the only thing we really have to go off of is the statement that the CEO made, but the fact that this happened around the same time that Jericho launched their Vagabond shaped is a little bit suspect. Now onto the really silly ones, the real reason that I wanted to make these videos, probably the dumbest lawsuits that I've ever seen in my entire life. But this is the lawsuit that Gibson decided to bring against the Guitar Hero of all things. Not even an actual instrument, Guitar Hero, a video game. In 2009, despite Gibson and Guitar Hero having a pretty good partnership with the Guitar Hero series, Gibson decided to suddenly take him to court. The interesting thing about this case, and compared to the other cases that we've talked about, is the fact that this isn't a trademark issue. The case against Guitar Hero was a patent dispute. Gibson was claiming that they owned the patent for devices used for simulating a musical performance. So in layman's terms, for all you people that can't read out there because Gibson thinks a lot of you out there exist, Gibson is trying to say that they own the concept of pretending to play guitar. Pretty much. That's basically what it boils down to. In response to this, Activision actually filed a counter lawsuit against Gibson, saying that the patent was invalid and that Guitar Hero actually wasn't in violation of any patent. And thankfully, the US District Courts of California agreed. So yet another L for Gibson. It's really funny because during this whole process, they were actually trying to do the exact same thing to Rock Band, but because of the whole thing with Guitar Hero, they ended up just dropping it. Now to probably what I think is the most silly lawsuit that Gibson has ever done, because at least Guitar Hero, it's guitar shaped, it's like guitar size, so you know, I can kind of, there's some logic in that. This is against Funko Pop. Gibson sued Funko Pop. What logic is there behind suing Funko Pop? So in 2017, Gibson basically sent a cease and desist to Funko regarding a list of specific pop figures that they said infringed on their Les Paul trademark. Some of the named models were the Ace Frehley one, the Metallica one, and the Slash one. Because the two brands were unable to meet a mutual understanding out of court, they actually went to court in December the same year, with Gibson claiming that Funko is deliberately and intentionally using Gibson trademarks without consent and causing consumers to be confused and misled. So not only do Gibson think that you can't read, they also think that you'll think that Funko figures are Les Pauls. Like with the Jericho case, I cannot find an actual concrete resolution online with what actually happened with this case. So if anybody has any insights on that, please let me know because I am very curious to see how this whole thing panned out. But with all that being said, those are some of the most ridiculous lawsuits that Gibson has ever levied against companies. Not even restricted to just guitar companies, as we have seen. That's all in regards to that. If you guys found this video entertaining or informative at all, please feel free to leave a like or a comment, or maybe even subscribe for more videos like this in the future. But I've said my whole spiel. I'll let you guys go and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.